Welcome to POSTCAST. David Locke along with Ron Boone. Well, he'll be here in a second. Ron Boone is the Utah Jazz fall 113-112 to the Phoenix Suns. This was a really hard-fought, at times horrendously ugly, chaotic game, and the Jazz battled, and 95% of us should probably feel pretty good about this game, but the 5% is super frustrating! And we're talking about it coming up on POSTCAST. Thanks for joining us, David Locke, along with Ron Boone. And I really feel like I'm not quite the Animal House where I got the two different characters on my shoulder scene. I know none of you have seen that. Of course you haven't. R-rated movie and bad movie. Really great movie. But part of me is just like so bothered by the defensive rebounding in the fourth quarter that it is tainting my ability to see the overall tenacity, effort, fight, and play of the Utah Jazz tonight, which was fantastic. And I don't know which of those two on each of my shoulders should win out right now, Ron.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Jazz averaged 12 offensive rebounds a game. They only got 8. So you're absolutely right. The rebounding is what really hurt the Jazz, especially down the stretch. They ended up with 17 offensive rebounds, with 8 of them.
And in the fourth, do you have that third quarter? How many offensive rebounds did they have going into the? Phoenix had 10 offensive rebounds. They had 7 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. The Jazz in the fourth quarter had 5 defensive rebounds. So 7 of the 12 opportunities the Jazz had turned out to be offensive rebounds for the Phoenix Suns. And it was incessant how often it was happening late, happened on the final possession of the game. And I'm not sure it cost the Jazz the game, but it didn't give the Jazz the opportunity to win the game. They made some other mistakes late. Unfortunately, Collin Sexton got rushed and threw a bad pass across the lane on a huge possession, turned it over because he had a really nice game. So there were other mistakes along the way, but the inability to just clear the glass with a 7-foot beast in DeAndre Ayton was mammoth in this one.
Yeah, I thought that was a ball game, and that really made the big difference on whether or not the Jazz would give themselves a chance to win. Those second chance points that they were able to come up with off offensive rebounds really, made a big difference. Jazz usually a pretty good rebounding team, but tonight it was Ayton. Obviously, the adjustments that Monty Williams made in that second half, trying to get Ayton more involved and to the point where he was scoring. And then the big rebounds down in that fourth quarter really made a big difference.
The adjustment was really interesting. The Jazz jumped at them early, 32-22 at the end of one, led it 54-51, and then they came out and just pounded the high pick and roll with Ayton rolling to the basket in that third quarter.
Yeah, and it started off where they were just putting our guards in the pick and roll to the point where then Ayton was shooting over the top of the guards, but then after a while it just didn't matter because he was getting low enough to get some things to get what he wanted and close enough to the basket. And then Landale comes in, and he ends up running the same plays, but he ends up scoring really nicely, down there in the paint.
And maybe the key play of the game was where one of the key plays of the game was in the 3-play sequence when Booker went out of the game. Ayton scores twice and Payne hits a 3. They really struggle to score without Booker, and they convert on those 3 possessions, which was a big, big deal to this game. Overall, though, Ron, and, hey, it doesn't feel great. You've lost 4 in a row. The Jazz have lost 7 of 9 now. But the Jazz just went to Golden State. They went to Phoenix. Those are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference. Denver and Dallas just aren't quite there yet to be on the level of Golden State and Phoenix, I think, as you look at this season. And the Jazz fought with them every single night, the whole way through both nights without Mike Conley on the floor. And particularly tonight, they looked better without Mike Conley than they have on any other night. They're getting a little bit better and more comfortable playing without Mike until late, and then they really missed him again. But I think it was overall, I find this to be a really kind of, to the comment Will Hardy made in the press conference when Janie McCauley of the AP asked him in San Francisco, what have you learned about your team? We have heart. I would say this one showed it again tonight. This team has heart.
Yeah, really have heart. We've watched them all season long fight and not give up on games, especially when their team's go on a run and all of a sudden you got to, make some pretty good plays in order to stay in the ball game. So we've seen that all season long. But the hard part is that they just continue to fight, regardless of who's out there on the floor and regardless of what combinations he's putting out there on the floor. Everyone has been able to contribute something. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes been made, but they continue to to do the best they can.
Jazz fall tonight to the Suns. Let's talk about Collin Sexton because his performance the last few nights at times has been rough. Tonight, he came a shot out of a cannon in every way that you're going to want him to play. Like he's got limitations. He does not see the floor great. He is not a natural point guard. He gets caught making some mistakes. But tonight, he had a big steal in the backcourt. He made a ton of plays. We saw how Collin Sexton can be a really valuable positive force on a team.
Yeah, I thought he slowed down a little bit here. I need to wave at Eddie while he's leaving, and his wife and his daughter sing the national anthem.
Job. Eddie Johnson, of who you can hear on Sirius XM. We'll give you a little plug while we're at it.
If I get on there, I might take Ron's job.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be able to play golf every day if you took Ron's job. It snows in Utah. And you'd have to work with me, Eddie. All right, so Eddie's leaving now.
See you later, buddy.
Nice to see you. Congratulations, your daughter was fabulous on the anthem. That's really cool. We were talking about Collin Sexton.
Yeah.
I saw the Collin Sexton that can be successful tonight.
And do you think he slowed down a little bit, though? And I know you talked about him trying to play without making mistakes, but I thought he slowed down just a little bit. He still drives very hard to the basket. And slowed down might be what I'm not looking for. Looking like he's trying to make sure he gets the team into sets or something like that. Look like he's doing that.
So here's my theory. I have no idea if this is true. We utterly changed the way we played there for a little while. We have not walked the ball up the floor at all at any point all season long.
Right.
And all of a sudden tonight we were walking the ball up the floor, and when something like that happens, my feeling is it's on purpose. Like nothing's happening by accident. These teams are well coached. And Collin has a tendency to get a little out of control when you make him fast. I think Will Hardy had gone to, I'm going to call every set for a while and get us into set plays because there are ways we can exploit the Suns defensively and do that. I think that note right there, one of the things I think is so interesting about this, Ron, is how good the Jazz offense has been against Phoenix. I don't know what they finished with tonight, but going into the fourth quarter, their offensive rating was a 109, and there was a lot of scoring in the fourth quarter. I would guess they were over 110, 112. Suns are the fifth best defense in the league. The Jazz have really handled them twice offensively, which is really impressive.
I think the Suns give up 108 points a ball game through the course of the year, and I think that's good for 6 or something like that.
Yep.
If I remember. But and you're absolutely right. The Jazz have been able to score on them in a few different ways. I mean, it wasn't marketing that really, even though he came alive there in the fourth quarter, ended up with 15 points. He only had 5 points going into the fourth quarter. It wasn't marketing, it turned out to be Sexton tonight. And so I think that's what Will Harding is happy with. Is that, and he said this, it doesn't have to be the same person every night.
Right. Bunch of questions from various people, lineup things, this and that. I think they're playing pretty well. Like, they just went to Golden State and Phoenix on back-to-back games. Honestly, I don't think you're expected. There aren't a lot of teams that are going to Golden State and Phoenix and winning games, right? Golden State's now 9-1 at home, and they're world champs. I don't know if Phoenix is at home, but they have the best record in the West. They're 13-6 now on the season. There aren't a lot of teams that are walking out with wins here in either of these two buildings. So I'm not sure that you're going to see lineup changes or roster rotations or things of that nature after either of these losses. I think when the pain of the loss wears out on both these games, I think you actually have pretty darn good performances by the Jazz in both of these two games.
Phoenix is 10-1 at home.
So those two teams are combined 19-2 at home.
Yeah,
and so we're playing without our starting point guard. That is the fabric, the thread that holds the fabric together.
Yeah, great point. And these two teams are very talented. Both of those teams that we play, Golden State and Phoenix, capable of getting to the Western Conference Finals because they have that talent level and they're just that good. And the Jazz are playing very good against them. So got to be pleased with that.
E. Daniels in our chat room, he wants on-road stories. He wants to know, have you ever been left at the stadium on a road trip like the bus left and forgot the commentators? Just curious. What time's our bus tonight? Because I feel like it could happen tonight. It feels like we're really late tonight. 10:10, so that hopefully will not happen tonight. Yes, I have. I was left in Los Angeles by then president of the team, Randy Rigby, and had Tom Nasalki and I had to take a cab to catch the plane to get on the plane in LAX, which is like really hard to get done. So yeah, I have had this happen.
I have not.
That was not while I was the radio voice on the team. The other question, they just want funny story on the road, funniest moment traveling on a road trip this season. I don't think we've had a funny moment on the road trip this season.
Not yet, no.
We don't have funny moments. We all have fun together, but our memories are planes falling out of skies, birds hitting planes, which luckily we didn't have to deal with, fire alarms going off at 3:30 in the morning because somebody smoked in the hallway or in the staircase because it was -5 degrees outside in Memphis and they didn't want to go outside and smoke, so we all ended up having to be like, those are the stories that we have for you. Funny? I don't think so, but those are. 2 stars tonight, Ron Boone. Who are you doing?
Sexton. Let's go with Collin Sexton. I thought he had a wonderful basketball game tonight. Off the bench, Alexander Walker. I mean, he just continues to get better and better and better.
Good night for him. 4 for 4 from 3. His plus-minus is funky, which is weird tonight, but I thought he played great. So we'll give it to Sexton, Alexander Walker. Best game of the year for the Jazz without Mike Conley by far. They have lost 4 in a row since Mike got hurt. That's not stunning to me. I don't think there's a lot of wins on this in this schedule until Mike Conley comes back. He is really, really important to this roster. Jazz fall to 12-10 on the season. Suns go to 13-6. This has been POSTCAST.